I've been really blessed to work with a lot of really funny people. And when I was at the Magnet too, there was people who'd pop in all the time. Like Mike Meyers was there, which was really good. And I got to work with him. And at UCB, Amy Poehler runs UCB. Yeah. And Tina Fey would pop in, and Andy Richter. And
guys, welcome to the Comedy Citadel podcast. I'm Donnie Fan out of Beijing. I'm here with Lex Morales.
Oh, that's when I do that.
Or do I call you Alejandro?
You could, but only my parents do when they're really angry.
Oh, that's how I am with Donald. You know, people
yeah.
are like, Donnie, what's your real name? I'm like, Miguel.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, only my mom calls me Donald when she's really angry.
And thank you for saying Alejandro and not Alejandro, like most, the other white people that I grew up with. But that's how I got Lex, because it was Alejandro, and then it was Alex, and then it was Lex. And the more white people I meet, the shorter my name gets.
And soon you're just going to be
just X, hopefully.
X?
Yeah.
Cool. As you lose your hair.
I'm not. Listen, I don't wear a hat because I'm losing my hair.
I'm losing my hair too. There's no shame.
Yeah. I'm not losing my hair. That's what I said. I'm not losing my hair.
So I'm here with Lex Morales, who has brought me here to his new club, the Comedy Joint, in Bangkok on Khaosan Road.
Very proud of it. Thank you.
Yes, it is an awesome club. I've been here for a week. It has rained every night. Every night. We did have one really cool show with a bunch of people from China. Yep. So that was pretty cool.
Thank you for bringing a Chinaman here. Wait, I shouldn't have said that. China.
There were equal women and men from China, and none were Asian.
Yes, that was pretty impressive. That was pretty impressive.
So that was cool. So Lex, I kind of want to know, like, you've been doing comedy. You've got a great resume. You've done improv. If I check your IMDb, you have exactly one credit to your name, which is
Finding Priya Prom Date?
Yeah, Finding Priya Prom Date. I have no idea what that is, but it's obviously important because it's there.
It got there, I guess. Yeah.
And we can find you all over YouTube on other people's podcasts talking about psychedelics, it seems.
And I had a podcast, too, that we stopped, but it was called Stoner Morning Show. But that was one of my favorite things I ever did, too. So there's a whole bunch of that shit on there. Unedited, so they're long podcasts, but they are really fun if anybody gets into that.
So we're going to be probably not so long today.
Yeah.
We're limited on time. We've got a show soon.
Yep.
But you've been a successful stand-up comic for quite a few years now.
Successful maybe the last couple of years, but I've been doing comedy for a while. And then before, like, most of my credits were doing like improv and sketch writing, and like I started comedy at the UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade in New York, and then I did a lot of shows at the Magnet Theater in New York, and then I moved out west and. I worked with UCB still, and
you did like a talk show at the Magnet Theater, or not? A late night sketch show. What did you
that was like Horny Bitches, and then I was on I was on Junior Varsity, was the longest running improv team in New York, but I dipped out of there quicker than they had a longer run. I think I was with them for the first 4 years, and I think they did like 8 or 10 or maybe 12. I did Horny Bitches at Magnet Theater. I did another sketch which was called Adults, was one of my favorite groups that I ever did sketch with. They were awesome. The talent on that team was so fun. And I don't know, and there was a group called The Future, which was really, really good with some really amazing comics. I've been really blessed to work with a lot of really funny people. And when I was at the Magnet too, there was people who'd pop in all the time, like Mike Meyers was there, which was really good. And I got to work with him. And at UCB, Amy Poehler runs UCB. Yeah. And Tina Fey would pop in, and Andy Richter, and then the guys who actually were always there, like Rob Riggle or...
Rob Riggle is so funny. So funny.
So funny. That's why I guess his name popped up. And he was just a super nice dude. A lot of people who were there, I came up with like Donald Glover, and he's an amazing human being. And I didn't even know how talented, I knew he was talented, but I didn't know how diverse he was when I was working with him. T.C. Pearson, John Murray, George Basil, who's on like the Pete Holmes show now. He's Wolverine on that. He is so funny. I was just always surrounded by amazing people. And I shout out to like Armando Diaz, who runs the Magnet Theater, who's like my guru, and Mike Delaney at UCB. Those are my two favorite teachers that I ever had. And just like brilliant comedic minds that nobody knows about, or the comic world should know about at least, you know? I was around super funny people.
So going from improv to stand-up, you're working with a bunch of people who I guess they do both, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty common for people to kind of venture into both fields.
Yeah.
We talked about it the other day that even if you don't do stand-up comedy, improv, you're eventually going to have to perform as a stand-up comedian.
Some kind, somehow. Even if you're just making a sketch about how shitty stand-up is, you'll do that.
So what would be your premise for like the ideal stand-up sketch, a shitty stand-up, like somewhere in Bangkok?
They kind of did it, but like I saw Matt Walsh and Matt Besser do this great like sketch where they were getting heckled.
Yeah.
Somebody was heckling them, and the heckler ended up being funnier than the comic, and that I think is perfect. Honestly, I haven't touched it because sometimes when somebody writes something that you appreciate so much, you're almost scared to touch it. That sketch is so great. And there's
That's kind of how I feel about Ladyboys. I heard your Ladyboy joke, and I just don't even want to go near one because I just can't have as good of an experience as you did.
No, you can't. It's really good. And you have to come to the show to see that because it's really edgy. I dance the line, and yet I don't offend anyone except my parents. You are not the child I raised. Man, to write a sketch about stand-up is, I mean, the things about stand-up which are awesome are you're alone.
Yep.
So it's all up to you. And there's so many ways it could go wrong. And that's what comedy loves is failure, you know?
For sure.
So there's a million angles to it, I guess.
So where has stand-up gone the most wrong for you? It's your worst.
When I chose to do it. When I realized that it takes up more time than making money. But you do it, right? And it's so addictive and fun, and it's so rewarding in that way that you forget to get paid sometimes. And then
I'm going to get paid. You're going to pay me.
I am paying you. I am paying you more than I would like to, especially when it's raining all the time. But no, you're so fun, and you're like my first guest here, so I really appreciate it.
Equally, greatly appreciate it.
But, that's one of the reasons why I opened up a club, because I was a road comic. And as fun as that is, it gets harder and harder. And also, I think your comedy, my comedy was getting better and better as I was traveling the road and experiencing the universe. And then I think it starts getting limited because you just don't have the time to work on the craft as much, maybe. So I got settled here during COVID, and I realized I needed to settle down again. I wanted to. You don't have to retire with comedy, but your body will break down. I think. I don't know. I just never wanted to be that guy who, I see some of the guys who travel the road forever, and as much as I admire them, it looks super fucking hard.
So what are some of the challenges you face? Because I'm recently on the road. In China, I've been to a bunch of different cities, and that's a lot of fun, but it's like a weekend.
Yeah.
For me, I tell people when I started my path in comedy, and as a producer of comedy, my idea was I don't want to do one comedy show a month.
Yeah.
I want to be out as much as I can, and I want to be able to hit different parts of the city. I want to kind of emulate what it means to be on tour. But still, I get to go to bed in the comfort of my own home every night.
Yeah,
I get to eat what I want, what I feel comfortable eating. I'm relatively new to traveling around the world and doing this. And I thought this summer when I went on my first world tour, like, I'm going to have all this free time. I'm going to be on planes. I'm going to be in hotels. I only have shows on the weekend, so I'll have 5 days a week to write or explore, do whatever I want to do.
So stupid.
I'm so stupid.
Yeah,
I'm just in bed.
I thought the same thing too.
Every day. Yeah. So, like, for you, when you were on the road, what were some of like those challenges?
Well, that's it, because your brain is absorbing so much too. So when you're in a constant new place, your brain is just absorbing a whole bunch of shit, and so you're like. So I think you just get mentally exhausted in that way, Also, if you see pictures of me, I was super fat. and you just can't live healthy because you're constantly eating like safe foods that are comfort foods because you're not at home. So you're eating a lot of shitty stuff. Or honestly, too, it wasn't even just that. It was just like, oh, I'm in a new place, so I want to try the thing. And then the thing at this place is never healthy. Nobody's eating salad as a thing. It's,
the Greeks, but who does comedy in Greece?
Exactly. It's bullshit. So I'm eating Philly cheesesteaks and like Ben Roethlisbergers and stuff. So yeah. And those are good things and bad things. But I mean, the best things are you meeting other comics.
Yeah, for sure.
The second best thing about comedy is meeting other comics. It is performing it, and that's amazing and so rewarding. And then the second best thing is hanging out with comics, who are usually some of the smartest people, some of the most damaged people, which are usually the most empathetic people. And I just love it.
So, like, for something interesting that I found is, like, no matter what city I'm in, no matter what country I'm in, I can meet new comics and I'm like, oh, you are just like this comic that I know back here. You do the same jokes as that person. You've never crossed paths before. You're obviously not like, stealing anything, but style-wise, it's like there are these different archetypes that I think that you meet when you're on tour. And it's like,
there's a guy who goes dark for no reason. You know, he's just like, I'm going to do shock humor. There's a girl who's really, really sweet and almost funny.
Yep.
You know, it's like, oh,
shots fired.
No, because they're still sweethearts and they are funny. You know, I'm sorry, they are funny, but you know, there's everybody's angry. And then there's one person who's like, I'm not going to be angry on stage. I tried that for a while. You have to be a little angry.
I do find that there's more support touring than there is locally because, you know, people aren't nervous that you're going to take their spot, right? They're just like, oh, you're the guy coming in for the night. I get to perform with you and not against you. So
is that how it goes? I mean, I guess so.
I feel that way. Yeah. I feel like when people are supportive of me, especially when I'm not funny. Yeah. You know, they're like, oh man, you're so good. It's like,
we're all so hoping. That's it. I feel, man, that's how I felt when I was in Singapore. They were all super nice and I did not do well. I mean, I was fine, but I was not as strong as I would have loved. I don't know. They're also probably hoping that they could get a spot where you are too, you know, which is nice. But that's awesome to know that they're like, I got friends all over the world now, which is really cool. And then if I don't know somebody in a place, I will know somebody who knows somebody, you know. I have to make one call and then I can get a spot.
And that does feel cool. It's something I've really enjoyed from touring is like you see somebody and they see you and they're like, oh man, we didn't know what to expect, but you were, way better than what I thought.
Or the last guy last week, you know?
Yeah, or you're better than the guy who was here the other week. And so you get, those connections and those bridges. So you might be in one city, but the city over, they're connected. So they're like, hey, I got this guy. He was really funny. You got to take him on. I mean, it's kind of how I ended up here with you. Right? Like,
Jack hit you,
so,
right?
Jack, very cool guy. I met in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And we performed together a few times. And I loved what he does. He is one person I have not seen emulate. Yeah. When I performed with Jack, he stood on stage and made pelican sounds for 20 minutes.
Yep. Seagulls. It was seagulls.
Seagulls.
It was seagulls. Very abstract, but I like it. He's creative.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Very weird.
You got to be willing to take chances.
Totally. And that's one of the things that I do miss out here in Asia. Because there's not, and maybe this is different in China, but I think because there's such a limited amount of comedy out here, you don't see as much like alt comedy, which I don't really like that phrase, but it is. That's what they would label it in New York, right? And that's kind of where I started with like UCB kind of stuff, where even when I was doing stand-up at the beginning, I was doing weirder shit. Yeah. And when I started touring through America, I started becoming way more of a nightclub comic, which I really admire. I mean, I really appreciate.
You admire yourself?
No, that's why, because I admired the comics who did it. Like Norm Macdonald might be my favorite. Like Norm Macdonald, Patrice O'Neill, Dave Chappelle are like my top three, you know. But then right after that is Steve Martin. I think Steve Martin is the shit.
Steve Martin is so phenomenal.
Fucking weird. Yeah. I love it. And he just, it's a choice. And so those are the kind of things when I do get a chance to do some weird shit, I'm really excited about that.
I feel bad as a producer because when, I see comics coming up and they're trying to do things that are like outside the norm, I'm kind of like, hey guys, like I love what you're doing, but you're not going to get on shows doing this.
Yeah.
Like you want to encourage the art and the craft and the creativity, but also the audience. As a producer, you want to sell tickets. You want people to enjoy the show. And there's, as a producer, it's hard to have that balance of like the...
Yeah, that sucks. I hope that I don't get that dickish. That dickish as you. No. That came out completely right.
I think it took... It did.
No, you're right. But you're right. Because the nuance, there's a better word for that here. The savviness of the audiences out here is not as well. It's not as good as New York where we started, right?
Yeah.
You didn't start in New York. But,
I didn't start in New York, but I did just go through, I grew up watching New York comedy.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah. So you could go up and you could watch Norm Macdonald go up there and do some crazy shit, and then you could see Andy Daly, and I don't know if you know Andy Daly, but that's the other name that I couldn't pop up, but I knew him from UCB and sketch, and he has an awesome. I think it's on like Comedy Bang Bang. But Comedy Bang Bang stuff, right? You watch, and some really weird shit like that where you could, he does an impression of it. Oh, no, he does a 5 minutes stand-up bit where he doesn't tell one punchline, but he sounds like a stand-up.
It's kind of like
the whole fucking
kind of like Neil Hamburger.
Yeah.
I'm a big Neil Hamburger fan.
Yeah.
That stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But so as a, can I ask you, you're in Thailand, you're in Bangkok. There are other clubs that are wildly successful. You had time on those clubs.
Yeah.
So how did the Comedy Joint come to be? Why? You don't need to get into like gossip or anything like that.
I wouldn't anyway.
Yeah, we can avoid that. But just like what inspires you to kind of go off and do your own thing?
The three main things were, one, I fell in love with a girl. And I needed to be able to support her and myself and stop touring and make it a regular income. So I didn't want to be a teacher for English, and I wasn't good at it anyway.
This is the lady boy we talked about?
Yes, this is the lady boy, but she has a vagina now. And secondly, when I did get here, and this isn't, I don't need to name names, but there was like, it was very territorial. It was very a lot of people weren't working with each other and stuff like that. There was nobody growing. It is a city where, Bangkok is a city that is very transient, and people come here for 1 to 5 years, and then dip out. So when I got here, I was lucky enough to have a lot of talented people that were just on the edge of getting very good. Or they were there, but they didn't have an outlet for it. And some of those people are still here. And there was a comedy club on Khaosan Road that didn't make it through COVID. And it was a poppin' I would just sit there and go like, this could be the coolest independent club in the world if he did it right. But he just didn't have the money or the funds, and he was a one-man band. And so he worked his ass off to try to do his best. And I think he did, I don't know. But it didn't make it through COVID. So when it didn't happen after COVID and he didn't start it up right away, I found an investor and was lucky enough to be able to build this place, which hopefully will grow into something beautiful. But honestly, I did this because there's just so many talented people here, and there is a crowd that wants to have comedy. Bangkok has the best. This is how I got my investor. Bangkok has the best of everything. Has the best, like besides France, it has some of the best French food. It has all the best. What I'm saying is like it has some of the, but it doesn't have the best comedy. And even the comedy club, the biggest comedy club here before this place, they would only do a show once a week. It just didn't have it's not in a place where they could just do a show all the time, or maybe he's a one-man band too, where he's not able to do that capacity. I don't know. But there's I do think that there's a reason why it hasn't grown. And also the reason why it's called The Joint, besides me smoking weed, is because I am really making an effort to join the Thai comics to this stage and to the English-speaking comics. Yeah. So that, because it's a new art form in Thailand. They've had a guy named No Udom. I don't know I can't say his real last name properly, but he's an OG, and he's the only one. You could say it on the street. They call it talk show here.
Yeah, it's same in China.
Okay. I'm like, I'm a stand-up comic, and they have no fucking clue what that is. But I'm like, talk show, No Udom. And they're like, joker. And so I'll be like, they know that, but none of them have ever been to one of the shows because it's like high soul people. It's like the rich people who do it. And he does like 3-hour shows and music and, it's pretty impressive, but also it's not particularly what we know as comedy.
Yeah, it's like a whole stage performance kind of thing.
And then about a year and a half ago now, there's a guy named Khaosan who opened up his Thai comedy club, and he's like a brother to me. And he's been really pushing the Thai comics and growing. So I would say 90% of the comics in Thailand have been doing it for less than 3 years.
Cool.
And they're only getting funnier. And so that's why I built this place, is to really, that's why I came to Thailand. And I've been here for 5 years, but it took me 3 years to find the other the Thai comics, not the English, because I was lazy. And then, it was
another common personality trait for comedians.
Yeah. It's the hardest job I've ever had, and I did not know I was signing up for it. I thought I was just going to smoke weed and make fart jokes, but you can only go so far. Yeah. But now I'm really trying to promote and grow, and I'll teach some classes to them, and I just go and hang out. I don't know what the fuck they're saying, but I could tell they're funny because the audience laughs.
Let me ask you like 2 or 3 more questions, and then we can kind of get out of here, if you don't mind. You teach some classes. So I also teach comedy classes, and I'm always trying to get the advice for people who are interested in comedy. We in China's comedy is still relatively new in China as well. A lot of people are interested. They don't know how to start. You can tell them, hey, just start writing, just start going to open mics. You can tell them that, but they still feel nervous. They don't want to. So like, if you had to give, a reason for somebody to get started in comedy.
There's no reason. There is not one reason. I can tell. Well,
you've hit rock bottom.
Yeah. Your mom never hugged you. It will not satisfy you. I'll tell you. Okay. If you want advice for comedy, is that what you're saying, or you want reasons to do comedy?
Advice, something that would get somebody who's sitting on their ass watching comedy on TV going, I really wish I could do that. Something to get them to actually say, you know what, you can.
Okay. If you are a fan of comedy...
start that again.
Let's clap again. No, you were late on that one.
Yeah.
All right. If you're a fan of comedy, then you have a sense of humor, and so you could probably do it. And everybody who has ever done comedy has started as a fan, right? And we all sat there and watched it. So the best thing you can do is go to an open mic and watch how terrible they are. And you'll just go, oh, I could do that too. Yeah. And then you go and do it and just know you're going to fail too. And that's one of the best things about comedy is failure. Like when you fail, you get funnier.
Because there's no real such thing as failure in comedy. Like everything has something you can take away from it.
No, people will watch Johnny Carson all night. Johnny Carson late night. And when his jokes, he's one of the best of all time. And people would watch it just to watch him bomb and then do a little golf swing, afterward. And there was a comic here who I won't say his name, but his written jokes were absolutely terrible. But his responses to how bad his jokes were and the audience going, and then his responses were so funny. So his sets were always funny. And he'd go, oh, that was great. And I'm like, motherfucker, can't write a joke. But he was naturally funny, but his prepared material sucked. And so even though I teach class, one of the first things I tell them is you just wasted your money. The only reason why they pay me is to be accountable. And I've taken a class and I paid for it. And I realized afterward that the only thing that guy taught me is how to teach comedy. Yeah. But the thing that I learned most about that class is that I just have to do it and fail. Yeah. And you have to go up because the best teacher of comedy is the audience.
Yeah,
so you just have to learn to get a thick skin and just fucking go out and bomb and write it better, because writing is rewriting and it's a conversation with the audience. And I'll say, this is the one thing I will have to say is like, it's not advice, but it's the best thing about comedy is you're transmuting pain and suffering and hurt into laughter.
For sure. Yeah, I when I teach my class, I also tell them, like, from day one, it's like, I'm not a teacher, don't call me teacher. Yeah. Don't call me, in China, it's called Laosher. I'm like, don't call me DJ Laosher, or Donnie Laosher, or whatever. Yeah. It's, I'm not here to teach you how to write a joke per se. I'm here to help you find your voice in comedy and kind of hopefully give you some confidence to get out there. But ultimately, everything's going to come through the failure that happens at the mics. The thing I wanted to, you just kind of mentioned it. We were talking the other day, and I told you that a comedian named David Jacobs told me one day after a comedy show, he said, Donnie, you're getting really funny, you're getting really good at this, but your comedy is very self-deprecating. You talk a lot about pain and stuff. Just be careful you don't let that consume you.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I didn't know what he meant. And then just the other day, we were sitting down together, and you kind of told me something similar. Can you expound on that?
Yeah. So, and there's a teacher here who talks about it, because when you first get into comedy, or when you first get on stage, somebody will say, like, address the elephant in the room, address how you look as a character, and you do become a character, but hopefully it's the best version of yourself. It's the best version of yourself. For me, when I get on stage, it's the best version of myself. And some people will say, highlight all the things that are wrong, because that's what happens in comedy. We do talk about all the things that are wrong in the world. And so there's reasons for it. It's good to let everybody know that you could laugh at yourself when you're doing comedy, and so you could be self-deprecating, so that you could kind of shit on yourself so that they feel all right when you shit on them, or you shit on a topic that they might not, that maybe they hold dear to themselves, but you're trying to make fun of everything that you can. And it's very easy to make fun of yourself because you spend 24 hours a day with yourself. Yeah. But that's the trap, is that you could become that character of self-deprecation and self-loathing, and you could just become more of that. You start making fat people jokes, and now that's who you are. And you're going to be and now you're writing jokes about you being a fat person, and then now it won't be easy for you to lose weight. And if you're depressed, you're going to stay depressed. And if you have a lisp or something that you could still do it, but then you have to really fight to separate yourself, those two things, and recognize that you are a performer and a person. And not to just shit on yourself so much.
Don't forget the humanity in yourself when you're on stage.
Totally. And this is one of the reasons why I love hanging out with comics, is because we've all gone through pain and we've all suffered and stuff like that. And we find the negative in the world. And we shit on the world in some ways, right? Yeah. But then that's the trap. If you only hang out with comics and you're not going out taking walks in nature and doing shrooms and and actually making your mom hug you, and those kind of things, and like loving life, it will be a real trap in a well of just, your well will go dry. And it's happened to me multiple times. That's why I know it. Because I've been doing it long enough where I wasn't self-care, it sounded so gay is the worst way to say it. But to do self-care and self-love. And you need to do those kind of things when you're doing a job that is so glorious and fun, and you could really help so many people in the audience who are hurting, but it's self-sacrificing. Yeah. And so you need to,
like, we're not here to be martyrs.
No. You can't be. And you see some people like Norm Macdonald, who I love so much. And he lived, cancer 8 years, and nobody didn't tell anybody? Yeah. It's like, okay, that sounds brave and amazing. And also selfish as fuck. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who would have loved to help him out. And so you could say that you're strong and brave, and there's an admiration in that way. But then there's also if he was my friend, I'd be really fucking pissed, because all of a sudden now I was robbed of a friend, and I could have been there for him. Yeah. Right? So.
Well, that's a sad way to end this. Let's not end it like that.
Well, yeah. He did die, so at least fuck that guy. He did. At least he's dead now, so that's good.
Big Norm Macdonald fan, as I'm sure you are.
I love him. He's the best.
It's the best.
Yeah.
So then, before we go, the comedy joint on Khaosan Road. What's your big pitch? Look straight into the camera. Tell them why they got to come here to Khaosan Road.
We sell weed.
That's not true.
No. We will. Once we get the license, we will. I put my heart and soul into this place. It was designed, if you're a fan of comedy or you're a comic, if you're a comic, then you know that I know you're a fan of comedy. This is made by a comic, and I've traveled the world, and I'm so right. I'm proud of this stage. I'm proud of this room. Yep. It's on Khaosan Road, which is insane. It's a fun party place. It's also a tourist trap. There's nothing else to do except balloons. It sounds so good, though.
So if you're going to get trapped At the comedy joint.
Come watch comedy and then go do balloons and get drunk and then know that around 3 or 4 a.m. all the lady boys will start go hunting for you to see how drunk you are and if you see their 5 o'clock shadow.
So what's your schedule? When's your open mic? When's your shows? It's
brand new. So right now I'm just running kind of an international showcase every night until we start having the comics develop their shows.
So where can we find you?
We'll have a website. Hopefully by this time it's published. It should be the Comedy Joint or just Google the Comedy Joint and you'll see it at least on Google Maps. But by the time you see this, hopefully, or in a month from now, you'll see a website called the Comedy Joint.
.com? .Bangkok?
Theoretically, I think we own that. You could also, I know we own Bangkok Comedy or Comedy Bangkok, so you could also see Comedy in Bangkok.
I love how you say Comedy Bangkok every time, but...
it is Comedy in Bangkok.
Yes.
And and there is Bangkok Comedy. I bet you Google that and you'll find us too. It is at least physically the largest comedy club here, and it will be the busiest, hopefully. I think I have a good relationship with 95% of the comics in the area.
Except me.
Except you. You got 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I got 30 seconds.
Yeah, all right.
All right.
Thank you for letting me whore myself out. I haven't whored myself in a while.
I'll keep pouring yourself out.
Not since COVID.
I will take another chocolate bake treat if. This you guys can also find him on Instagram at the Comedy Joint Bangkok, as well as Fun with Lex. Fun with Lex, not Lexi, not Alejandro.
Nope.
Fun with Lex. All right,
Thank
been
you very much.
Cool. Lex Morales, everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Is that how you end all the podcasts? Shaking hands? Or seems so official. I did not think you had it in you.
You want me to like touch you or something?
Yes.
Tickle your balls?
I saw high five dicks. Let's high five dicks.
I'll tell you real quick. I have something called the tongue bump, which I was in college and I was with one of my friends. We were sitting on the sofa together. His name's Daniel Weber. Shout out to Weber. We're sitting on the couch together and we're drunk and I'm just like, and the guy's like, and our tongues like touched a little bit. And
I'm fine with the handshake. The handshake was
we
perfect.
Created the tongue bump. So I've been searching for 10 years for somebody to bump tongues with me again, but it's not happening.
3 a.m. I'm sure you could find a couple lady boys on the street who could do that.
All right, sounds good. Or at least some of your comics,
Yeah.
So,
all right, brother.
Cool.
Thank you
so much, Lex. Yep.